Joanna Lumley. And is it Madan?
Yes, and Chandra.
Madan and Chandra. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for escorting on our Gurkhas for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Come and have a seat. Wow. Well, what a story. What a remarkable story, and what a turn in your life. For us, it was a surprise, of course. For you, I guess Gurkhas had always been...
It was a surprise.
It was still a surprise.
It was a surprise. I mean, the Gurkhas have always been part of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm the daughter of a Gurkha officer. And I was born in India because he was with the Gurkhas, went to Hong Kong, Malaya because of the Gurkhas. But this recent thing has just been quite extraordinary.
Well, I guess it would be fair to say it took over your life for a short period recently.
Yes, it did. Since the High Court really last October, when that enormous triumph... It's been a roller coaster, Jonathan, because every time we thought, yes, we've won, the High Court overturned the policy.
Well, let's just establish, in case people have missed the story, which it would have been hard to, but initially, because your involvement is not just because your father served with the Gurkha regiment, but also because there's a personal reason why it's so special to you, isn't it?
Well, because my pa was in... There's a VC, one of the two VCs who's there at the moment, Tulbahar Pun and Lachimangurung VC. Both of them come with their wheelchairs. And my father was in the section with Tulbahar Pun as Chindits, which means like SAS, drop behind enemy lines. And Tulbahar Pun did this extraordinarily brave sort of sortie towards the enemy guns, and because of his bravery, the whole section was saved. So in a way, I owe my life, my father's life, to him.
Did they come to you when there was a problem with them staying
the
in the
lawyers, we were a very small team doing this. There were 4 lawyers from Howe and Company, a man called Peter Carroll, who runs a road haulage works and is a Lib Dem councillor down in Folkestone, and me, that's all we were. So we worked pretty much sort of ad hoc. We would meet either round at my house or on the pavement or in the Jewel Tower opposite the House of Commons, where we used to sit outside and drink sort of instant coffee and talk.
And so initially the government said the Gurkhas could stay in the country. Then they reversed the decision, am I right? Was there
well, first of all the Gurkhas, they'd made a brave decision, which was 1997 onwards, all the Gurkhas who'd retired could stay in the country. Those before couldn't. And the High Court found that to be unlawful. So they said, write a new policy. Then that took a bit of time. You had to go back to the High Court and had meetings with Home Secretaries and people like this. Then the new policy came out and it was bad. It seemed to exclude far more Gurkhas than should be right. So then it went to Parliament, and Parliament overturned it. And so then it was the sort of the race to the finish. And extraordinarily, the last day of it was just... It was like an Enid Blyton story when everything came good in the end. But
it was remarkable for someone, I don't know how many other people thought this, but I was watching it on the news and looking at the newspapers, and it seemed like just such a no-brainer that the government would turn down and say, these are men who fought for this country.
Yes.
These are men who don't want anything else than the right to stay in this country, that they have defended and risked their lives for.
And indeed given 45,000 of their lives.
Yeah, and you think, why on earth did they not immediately say, OK, that's the right thing to do?
Well, I think the truth is that the figures had been fiddled, and so the government was being fed these scare stories of millions and millions of Gurkhas all arriving in wheelchairs, and everybody would be ill and would want the dole. In actual fact, it's just a fraction of that number, all of whom want to work. And
you had, did you have, was it lunch or coffee with Gordon Brown to help sort of try and advance? So the Lumley charm offensive went into the high gear.
Well, it was a Lumley sort of pleading offensive, really, which was just, please, I begged him to take it into his own hands and for him to look at the figures. Because, after all, having been a Chancellor, he knows about numbers.
Although, I don't know if you saw the recent budget, but they kind of like... they seem to just pluck them out of the air, some of them. But I imagine, for you, a personal triumph in some ways, but really, the issue is such an important one, just because of your connection.
And for the people of this country, because the thing is that people have it almost genetically, it's in our bones. Even people who don't really know, their granddad or their great-uncle, their father, whoever it was, all of them, anybody who served in the wars, knows that they worked alongside Gurkhas at some stage, and they have this legendary status. So people wanted the Gurkhas to stay here.
And now, what's the... I don't know if this is true or whether this is just a kind of myth, but there's the story about the Gurkhas' blade.
The kukri.
The kukri. The once unsheathed...
I know. I mean, I did have it unsheathed, and I thought, what do I have to do now? I cut my finger off. But
because the story is that if it's out of its sheath, it needs to taste blood before it can be returned.
I think this is just...
Hold it, the fellas are nodding there. Is that true, gentlemen?
Yes, it is true.
Well, what if you accidentally take it out? You're looking for your keys or something. Do you really have to do it every time?
What?
Well, hold on. It's well, it's either true or it isn't. It's like you go, yes, it's true. Do you really do it? No. Well, I'm relieved to hear that. But it's a great legend to have.
Yes,
it's a great
it is.
to have.
I think it shows that they don't do it just as a kind of fooling around thing. They mean business.
Yeah.
Once that's out, I'm afraid.
Well, now, people have said in recent weeks, I believe, that you are now a hugely trusted celebrity. You are someone who many would be very happy to see running the country, it seems. Have political parties been knocking your door? Has anyone come and said, look, would you like to stand? Would you like to get involved?
No, it's OK. Really, really. I mean, I have to say, just even this little mixing with Parliament and just glimpsing what they have to do, it is such hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're going through a ropey time at the moment, but what they do is so difficult and so hard that the idea of having to get up and do that every single day is pretty punishing work.
Especially now as well, because now they're going to have to clean their own moats as well. And that's going to be a drain on energy and resources. No, it's a challenge job, and I wouldn't envy anyone who's in politics right now, because it's a terrible situation to be in. Just not necessarily things they've brought up. But you're a supporter of the Green Party, I believe. Is that this has come out this week?
Yeah, I love green people. I love the notion of it, because the truth is that I think we're closer than we think. Don't want to sound too doomy, to pretty great disaster.
Yeah.
And unless we plant trees and get clean water, the world is going to be in real trouble in a terribly short time. So if I started life again now, all I'd want to do, if I was at school now, is to leave school and to learn how to be a forester or an arborealist, a tree person, learn where to plant what trees, and then go and plant them. Because trees make the world live.
And that's the future, yeah. I know it really can be quite depressing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, on a personal level, you have resolutely refused to give up smoking. How many a day are we on at the moment, Joanna?
It depends. On things like this, when you come to the studio and nobody smokes, so you don't smoke in the car when you come along and so on, you get a sort of paltry sort of 2 I've had today. But on a good day with a bunch of real heavy smokers, with the lawyers outside the pubs in Westminster when we've had a success, 20. Lovely.
You ever have 2 in your mouth at one time?
3 sometimes,
OK, let's talk about your acting career, because this is really the main body of your life. We've seen you on screen. I know you started as a model, but there's various TV shows you've been involved in and projects which I've just adored and loved. Recently on BBC 4, if you catch it late at night, you see the new Avengers.
Yes, it's come back.
And some of the episodes, some of them are bloody awful, of course, but some of them are just great. And there's that kind of weird British eccentricity about the scripts and the performances. And that was a big deal for you, getting that part, wasn't it?
It was the biggest deal of my life, really, because up till then, I think the year before I got it, I'd earned £60 in one episode of something like Up the Workers, or one of those ones, as somebody's girlfriend. I mean, it was really desperate, and I couldn't think.
And so you stopped modelling, had you, at that stage?
Yes, and I sort of dabbled in it. I sort of half modelled, because then I had so slipped out of the scene that I could only do catalogue modelling, which was, I think it's fabulous, but anyway, it was considered very much the lowest of the low. And life was pretty bumpy, and I couldn't think what to do. When I got the Avengers, it meant that I never had to say who I was again when I went up for things. I might not get the part, but they knew who I was.
That was a great series. It was a great, a lovely memory I have, but also I adored, I don't know how many of you might remember this, but Sapphire and Steel.
Did you see it?
What do you mean, did I see it? I watched it every week. I love
yes,
Sapphire
so you
and
watched
Steel.
it every week. It was on twice a week. That's
Exactly.
why people thought it was muddling.
Didn't realise it was, so it got confusing.
They missed every other episode.
But at the end, am I right in thinking,
Yeah.
I remember watching it, and I remember when they ended it, she was trapped in a box.
No.
And sent out to space or something.
Not a box, a petrol station.
Well, OK, and so...
The whole petrol station, like that, was just floating in space with a tiny little Sapphire and Steel on it.
And what, so, where are they now? What happened with that? They're still there?
Yeah.
You can't end
with
a
my
series...
blue eyes in, waiting to be kind of activated again.
Well, I'm concerned that she's still stuck on the petrol station in space.
I can't bear it, I know. I never watched that last episode because it was like dying. I knew that once we were up there, I'd never be able to breathe again.
You're trapped up there right now?
Yeah.
Can't we have a whip round and get another one made? maybe...
Old Sapphire. I know, David's still alive in New York.
Let's get them, get you and David back out. But they come back and they say, blimey, they've aged. And that's it, it's all over. Let's have a look. I want to have a look. Let's show you a clip. I'm going to warn you now. Obviously, it's quite funny, but special effects weren't quite as advanced as they are today. So you have to factor that in a little bit, OK? It's not going to be as seamless. It's not going to look like a modern Hollywood blockbuster, but use your imagination a little bit, OK? This is terrifying if you use your imagination. OK? This is Sapphire and Steel. I'm a bit confused, though.
Can I just tell you...
OK. Joanna's going to explain what was happening there.
I just want to tell you what, the cushion was filled with swan's feathers. And it was a story about how dead animals take their revenge on people, and all the animals which we've killed so badly.
Blimey.
And so this swan's feathers, it had been killed and plucked, and so it turned into a swan to attack.
I wouldn't want to be wearing a jacket with pheasant feathers on right now, would you? Because that's going to end badly. OK, let me talk about your documentaries before we talk about some of your comedy work.
Yeah.
I saw the one you made about going to visit, to see the Northern Lights.
Yes.
What an exciting... Well, that must have been a once-in-a-lifetime trip.
For a start, Norway is one of the most phenomenally beautiful places in the world. We visited it in winter, so it was just under packed ice and snow. Unbearably cold and so beautiful you thought you'd died and gone to heaven. But we were there to look for the Northern Lights, and night after night it was too cloudy, we were in the wrong part of the country, they didn't think they would show that night. We kept on moving on, we were filming huskies, we were filming painters and things like that. We kept on looking every night, no Northern Lights. And then one night, this extraordinary guide said to us, it's not going to show here, but I have a feeling that if we drive for about an hour and a half north to a northern fjord, we might see them. So we drove for an hour and a half, got out there, wind blowing, Arctic, big suits on, ice boots, stood there. And then the sky just began suddenly to do this unbelievable thing.
Incredible. I didn't know that they were as hard to find. I thought it was a kind of thing that occurred, you know, every night, and it was there, and it was like a kind of light show, but it's actually, it's not that common an occurrence.
No, you can't. I mean, it is happening all the time, but you can't see it all the time, and it's best in the spring and the autumn. I mean, I just howled every time. Even when I see it now on recording, there's something so powerful to know that that's the solar wind blasting these atoms from the sun, passing the Earth, and then the Earth, our little planet, sucking it back with magnetism. These phenomenal sort of signs of the universe.
It does look incredible. It kind of makes you realise our place in the scheme of things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
OK, let's talk a little bit about Ab Fab, but in particular, let's talk about Mamma Mia, because the Mamma Mia that you did with the girls for Comic Relief was just fabulous, and I sensed how much you enjoyed it. You could just sense how much fun you guys were having making that. It must have been... and you were sort of playing Patsy, playing the role, weren't you?
Jennifer said, I want you to be Patsy trying to play Christine Baranski, trying to play that part in that film. So it's quite a few layers you go through. But then they also wanted me as Joanna, not knowing what Patsy... You know, the whole thing went on, which doesn't show in the film, because I'm not that good an actress. But the good fun was just working with Jennifer and Dawn and the unbelievably starry cast they had.
Yeah.
And it was just so funny.
The scene where Miss Baranski, was it when she does that version with all the boys, that was one of the weirdest scenes in the movie.
She'd been practising this for 6 months or something, which had a lot of that going on, and feet going in and out. We were going, what's that? And this terribly unsuitable young man.
I know, yeah. I know.
Anyway, so
here we have Joanna doing that as well. That's a fabulous performance. I don't know if you know this, but that last Comic Relief for So Far Raised, I believe, and it's obviously the money continues to come in, but it's 90 million that's raised, which I believe is the highest ever. That's remarkable, and in no small part thanks to Mamma Mia and you guys doing that. How fabulous to have you here. Congratulations again on winning the battle for the Gurkhas.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Alongside them. What a fantastic achievement. You're going to stay and listen to the Killers perform live?
Can I?
Of course you may.
Thank you.
That'd be lovely. Joanna Lumley.
Thanks.
How lovely.